Welcome back to the Secret Passage podcast. I'm your host, Dana Vespoli.
And I'm Shannon Rogers.
We are back for part 2 of the Madeleine McCann child abduction case, or just the missing child case, because there are some people that don't think she was necessarily abducted.
Right.
In fact, that's one of the theories. We're discussing theories today, everyone. We did an overview of the case last week. If anyone didn't listen to it, go ahead and go listen to it and then come back. We're getting into theories today, and then we'll get into media next week. So, Shannon, are you burnt out at all on on this case? It's intense.
Yeah, to go from the 3-part JonBenet to this, well, it actually cracked through my hardened, calloused true crime consumer soul, and I was able to really contact a place of it was real for me. It's real for me right now, that there are all these pedophiles in the world, and
Yeah.
that was the thing that really got to me, and that I was really wrestling with this particular case, and we're going to talk more about that. But yeah, so it's hard. It's like hard material to work with and to think about. Yeah. How about you?
Yes. In some ways, I think going through, because we didn't know with the JonBenet case, we thought we were just doing the case, and then it ended up really, it's an enduring one,
Yeah.
and it's one that warrants extensive discussion, because there's so much to it. And with this case, it's similar. I guess maybe my stamina is pretty good coming out of the the JonBenet case and going into this one. We entered into this with the understanding it was going to go the distance for us, in
Yeah.
3 episodes. So
Yeah, I think it's funny. As you were talking, I was thinking about another piece that was really difficult in both of these cases, and we'll probably talk about this more when we get to the journalism part. But it's like the empathy fatigue. It's really hard to watch these parents' faces and to watch their hearts just break, and to be with that,
yeah.
right? And there's this great quote. Let me see if I can just dig it out really quick. It's a trauma quote from Judith Herman from Trauma and Recovery: The Aftermath of Violence, from Domestic Abuse to Political Terror. It's very tempting to take the side of the perpetrator. All the perpetrator asks is that the bystander do nothing. He appeals to the universal desire to see, hear, and speak no evil. The victim, on the contrary, asks the bystander to share the burden of pain. The victim demands action, engagement, and remembering. And it's just, it's a tough thing to be with that a day in and day out when we're doing this research. Yeah.
Yes. And it's also, I think about, again, I come back to, and I know she's controversial, but Susan Sontag, when she talks about in her book regarding the pain of others and on photography, and we discussed that quite a bit when we were talking about Vietnam with the My Lai massacre, and then just representations in the media of violence, and how there is a remove that can happen for a lot of people when they see depictions of horror, either from like actual violence to information about people who have been hurt, murdered, abducted,
Mm-hmm.
and it stops feeling real.
Yeah.
With that's what we have. We're so we talk about the fatigue of compassion. We talk about the fatigue of information, that it feels like a myth almost. It doesn't feel real. And
Yeah.
so while the pain and the suffering is very real for example, Jerry and Kate McCann, and for John and Patsy Ramsey, it's very real for them, obviously. But for the
Yeah.
rest of the people, when it's all been sensationalized and narratives have been constructed around their tragedy.
Mhm.
There's the compassion fatigue, and then there's also just simply, I'm bored. What's the next story? You know,
Right, right, we're
this isn't
saturated.
intellectually, you know it's real, but
Yeah,
it's not your problem. And then it's one of a trillion problems. And now
right.
with media, we are just so bombarded with information constantly that, like, I can look at something. Oh, someone was set on fire. Oh, no, over here, this. Oh, you know, there was a 10-car pileup on the freeway. Oh, over there, somebody was blown up. I don't know I don't know what to do. So I shut down, or I just, to cope, it's not real. None of it's real. It isn't, it's not.
Like, distraction is our default mode now because of
Yeah.
our phones and everything, right? And our short-term memory can only hold, like, 3 things in it at once, and, you wanna look away sometimes, it's like and I think this forces us to dwell on it when we do these deep dives like this.
Yeah.
It forces us to and I think there's a really important thing about I think that's a very important thing to bear witness to people's pain, especially pain of this magnitude. But right, you're right. It's just like we are totally bombarded and saturated, and it is so easy to it's almost sociopathic. Like, it's so easy just to see a thing, not even the feeling doesn't even come up. Or maybe there's like an instant feeling of like, ooh, revulsion or terror, and but then it's moved on to the next thing. And that happens to us every single day. If we were to describe what we all go through when we scroll, we scroll, getting off topic, but like you scroll on Instagram and you're like, oh, there's rage, there's envy, there's loneliness, there's, you know what I mean? Like all the things within a 5-minute scroll. And we're doing this all the time. So I like this opportunity to really slow down and be with a thing.
Yes. And then it requires some self-reflection just in our own complicity. Because,
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, I'm complicit simply as somebody who consumes media and social media. If it's not one thing, it's another.
Yes.
And it's painful because you have your own, on top of all of this, you have your own life to contend with, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about the grief and the pain of Jerry and Kate McCann. However, there is a theory, which we will be discussing, which holds them completely responsible in Madeleine McCann's disappearance. So without further ado, let's delve into some theories. I'm going to pull up a list of key theories. There is, well, let's go ahead and go to that parental involvement, or accidental death cover up. That's the primary theory with that involves her parents, is that they accidentally killed Madeline and then covered it up, right? So we can get into that. The first one is that, as quickly as we all know, on vacation in Praia da Luz at the Ocean Club Resort, their days were very routine. They did almost the same thing every single day, which was send their little ones, Madeline, Sean, and Amelie, to kids club while they did grown-up stuff like playing tennis, all that kind of stuff. And the children would have their activities. And then they would gather the children up, give them dinner, get them ready for bed, put them to bed in their respective rented apartments on the property, and then go to the tapas bar and have dinner and sit at the exact same table every single night so that they had a clear view of their ground floor apartment, the floor apartment belonging to the McCanns. And so the theory is that Jerry and Kate were administering a sleep aid to the children. I want to say it's equivalent to NyQuil, but for little kids. It's called, what was it called?
Caldol, I think.
Calpol.
Calpol, yeah.
Calpol, which has it's for fever and cold and all that kind of stuff. But the side effect is that it makes you drowsy. And so this was sort of like an insurance policy to keep the children from waking up suddenly, getting upset, all of that. kind of the equivalent of when parents will give their children Benadryl before like a long haul flight. And there are pediatricians that are fine with that. They're like, oh yeah, no, this is the dosage that'll help them out. So I'm guessing that was the same mindset. And so the
Mhm.
theory is that they accidentally overdosed Madeleine, that maybe Jerry administered Calpol, and then Kate, not knowing that Jerry had administered it already, double dosed Madeleine by accident. And then they discovered she had died. And then rather than alerting the authorities out of fear of getting in a lot of trouble, of it negatively impacting their lives, careers, and custody of their twins, they decided to hide the body, either hide the body somewhere in Praia da Luz, somehow without anyone knowing, right, including their friends, and then act like, Madeleine somehow went missing. So then the entire tapas situation, where they met their friends for dinner, everyone took turns checking on the children. They pretended like everything was okay, and then decided to pretend like, wait a minute, she's gone. Oh no, what could have happened? They've taken her, right? So
Mhm.
that's one theory. The other theory is that Kate did it on her own, all by herself, went to
Mhm.
check on the kids, saw that Madeleine was unresponsive, verified that she had passed. Kate hid the body. She's athletic, so she took the body and ran up to a running trail, up the trail, buried Madeleine somehow using her bare hands to dig, perhaps, I'm not sure. Maybe just hid her somewhere around
Mm.
there. Maybe hid her and then returned with appropriate digging equipment and then like gave her an actual burial. I'm not sure. But there is that theory along these same lines, where is Kate acting on her own? Then she comes back very quickly and then tells everyone that Madeleine had disappeared. Then there is the pact theory.
Mm.
Am I missing anything?
No.
Okay, yeah.
There's the Calpol, she maybe fell. There's one that she maybe fell and had an injury and died, and then they covered it up. Then there's this one where everyone's in on it. Yeah.
Right, where all of them, they're all physicians. I don't know if that's relevant. Maybe it is, that they're all doctors.
They do have an oath they take to do no harm.
That's true. So they're like, you know what? Let's do another oath.
Yeah.
We'll add to our first do no harm, and we'll do first do not rat on each other. So that the idea is that all of them work together, that they all were sympathetic, that the Tapas Seven, essentially their friends, the McCann's friends, were incredibly understanding, very sympathetic that this terrible thing befell their good friends Jerry and Kate. And so they all worked together to stage this dinner where then things went wrong. So then I guess the idea there is that Madeleine either slipped and fell and died. Like, I guess she was fond of climbing on the couch. This goes to also the sniffer dogs sniffing near where the couch was near the window. And so there is a theory that Madeleine, maybe rather than dying of a Calpol overdose, fell, got stuck, hit her head, was playing, and then it's just by the time Jerry and Kate discovered her, she had passed. And then at this point, they, got the help of their friends who assisted in hiding Madeleine's body, doing this big charade of going to dinner as they have done for the past several nights, pretending like they're having a great time until it's time for Kate to pretend like Madeleine is suddenly missing from the apartment. So these are the primary theories around the parents being responsible. There are more wild theories that I
Mm.
have discovered that are not as, I suppose, as popular as this one when it comes to seeing them as responsible. One of them, I think I told you on, it was on a Reddit thing where someone's like, you know what? Kate had a bruise on her arm. I think she was assaulted. In the assault, Madeleine was killed. But Kate had to pretend like Madeleine was abducted because she was afraid for her own safety. I'm like,
What?
that is insane. That's the one where the guy responded to it and he said, I am terrified that people like you end up on juries.
Oh my God, 100%.
Yeah.
That's just like straight up made up.
Yeah. Based on what? She had a bruise. If you saw my legs, you would,
Yeah.
I mean, have fun. Like coming up with theories about how my legs have all these bruises on them. There's that one. There's that Jerry and Kate sold Madeleine to a sex trafficking ring. Again, this would mean that either they were fooling the Tapa 7 and went through this whole act, or that the Tapa 7 was like supporting them in their selling their 4-year-old daughter to a sex trafficking ring. So that's also a less popular theory, but that is one I've seen kind of floated about on the internet.
Yeah, I've seen things about the parents being kinky and doing like sex parties and stuff like that. Not that that would have anything to do with her death, but people have said that about the family and about the friends, and so
With absolutely no corroborating evidence.
no,
No.
just their fantasies in their mind.
Yeah.
Their dirty little fantasies.
But so now let's talk about what would have to take place for this theory to be real.
Yeah. They only had a 45-minute window or something because it was the window they would have killed her in, would have been the window when Jerry was at tennis. She was at home with the kids. That friend stopped by and only stayed for like 30 seconds. So it would have been, I think it's a 45-minute window that they would have had to do this in pre-dinner. And then they would have had to show up totally calm.
And jovial.
Yes. And Kate's an anesthesiologist, so it really doesn't seem like to me that she would overdose her kid accidentally, you know?
Also, I thought about this too. Madeleine was she was going to turn 4
Mm-hmm.
in like a matter of days.
Yeah.
If her dad gave her Calpol and then Kate came in with Calpol, I would think that Madeleine would say, Daddy already gave me medicine.
Absolutely. Or could you even overdose from that amount of Calpol? I don't know how strong it is, but you can probably drink a lot of NyQuil and not die.
Yeah, you just end up fucked up. But
Yeah. They also would have okay, so in terms of like behavioral profile and behavioral analysis, like they just don't even meet the criteria for these kinds of cases. Like normally the kinds of cases where there's like an accidental death or a murder of a kid and then the parents blame an abduction or say there has been an abduction, those are usually cases with people from like a lower socioeconomic status where there's a lot of financial pressure, there's a lot of other pressures. It's like these people they wanted her very badly. They had IVF to get her. They had tons of resources. They were on vacation. It wasn't like they were under stress of some kind, right? She's like a well-behaved kid. So they just don't even meet any of the criteria in terms of the behavioral profile for something like this.
right. And then also this idea that like let's say she accidentally died somehow, that their first impulse would be to conceal it.
Right.
Rather than, first of all, they are well connected. They could contact the British consulate. They have their friends. You know what
Yes.
I mean? That they would say like, "Holy shit, this happened." There would be a lot of the idea that the first thing you would do is go, "Shh, we've got to fucking get rid of her body. It's their
Right.
beloved daughter," and it's like we got to get rid of her body and pretend like nothing happened. I don't see it. I see panic. I see doing CPR. I see calling the hotel or
Yes.
their friends, their other doctor friends, like holy shit, holy shit, holy shit.
Yes.
Your first impulse when your child dies or is in distress is to get help.
Yes.
So I agree with you that kind of like your first impulse being gotta cover my tracks. I don't see it. And then, so let's add to that again for this to be true. So let's say, yes, they are responsible accidentally and they decide to hide the body. They had no car. They had no means of transportation. They had no tools.
Right, transport and kid, a 4-year-old kid's pretty heavy. Almost 4-year-old kid, pretty heavy. Running and carrying a kid out to the hillside or wherever to bury it is a lot of like. You see how small Kate is.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, to even know where to go with her. And then also,
Yeah.
it's again, it's your child,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right, you're going to be bereft.
You're bereft. You're going to be holding on. You're not that you're. I don't see your impulse to be to like then get rid of her,
Right.
right?
Yes, ditch the body. You're right, and then return to normal. Like, hello,
Right.
everybody. They also tested the twins' hair, for drugs of any kind,
And there
and
was nothing.
mm-mm.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be sociopaths to do it, probably.
Yeah.
Basically, psychopaths.
Right. And then the other side is, and you've brought this up a number of times, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, which is if their friends were somehow in on it and made a pact, you're telling me that these 7 other people kept their mouth shut for decades.
Not possible.
They're
I
going to put their
submit.
own lives and careers and reputations at risk because their pals accidentally killed a child. I would also assume that at least a few of them, if not all of them, would be reasoning with the McCanns. Like, hey,
Yes.
listen, no, this is not the answer. We're going to call the consulate. I mean, Jerry and Kate were so well connected. They would have
Yes.
been, and it was an accident. You know what I'm
Accidents
saying?
happen, yeah, and they could even have said like, I was in the house with her when it happened. They didn't have like if they were going to lie about anything, they could have just lied about who was present at the time.
Right.
Right. I think it's probably statistically. I don't know the statistics on this, but I think it's impossible for that many people to keep a secret this long.
And then my favorite
Mhm.
piece that goes along with this theory is that they hid her body somewhere. Then, what was it, between 20 and 25 days later, when they finally got the rental car, they take this decomposing child of theirs in that
Ay,
heat, put it in their rental car, and then drive it somewhere to dispose of the decomposing body of their child, their beloved child.
yeah, no.
I don't buy that. 1, and then 2, eyes were on them non-stop after they had called the police and got the ball rolling. There was never a time where they were going to be able to pull Madeleine out of what? Shallow grave somewhere and then carry her without being seen, putting her in the car when there's like press everywhere,
It's not
along
happening.
with detectives' eyes on them at all times. And they're going to successfully dispose of the body.
I know. I
Yeah,
don't buy it. But
I don't
but
buy it
but
either.
but the sniffer dogs. Let's talk about the sniffer dogs. So
Right.
you send in sniffer dogs to a rental apartment months after this event where it's been rented out again to other people and had been rented previously to other people. And you check a rental car where it has multiple rentals that they rented 25 days after she died, and you send sniffer dogs. This is why the people who think that their case rests on the sniffer dogs, I just roll my eyes, because sniffer dogs can pick up scents from like years. Some sniffer dogs can pick up decomposition. They use them in archaeological digs from like hundreds of years. And so you go, of course there's going to be some
Some
funk.
kind of decomposition.
Well, the guy who rented the car before them tells this story. It's so disgusting. He was moving garbage bags in the car, like to the dump. And he's like, oh, yeah, like, how did he phrase it? It was like shrimp and fish juice spilled out all over. And so he took the carpets out. I know. And the McCanns say the same thing, that they had gotten groceries and some of the like seafood juice had oozed out onto the floor. So, I mean, anything can happen in a rental car.
Right. And even the
Yeah.
handler, the
Yeah.
handler was saying, he goes, listen, my dogs are one aspect of an
Hmm.
investigation. Ultimately, if they smell decomposition, if they smell blood, it doesn't necessarily mean it's Madeleine's. They're
No.
smelling that there has been blood. They're smelling that there has been decomposition. But unless you have a point of reference for them, they're just going to let you know, yes, there has been something dead in this car at
Yeah.
some point. Yes, there has been blood at some point.
Shrimps.
Right. But to use them as the final word is not accurate. And their own handler
Said so.
was saying as much, you know.
But I can never say his
Amaral.
name. Amaral, thank you. So, but Amaral was like telling everybody. So they got the DNA, they got the tests, they sent the DNA in, it was inconclusive. And then Amaral went to the paper and basically told them that it was like a good match for Madeleine, which it wasn't. And that turned the whole
No.
case on its head. But still to this day, they don't know what the DNA is. But it's just so complex. It's all mixed in together. And I don't know if they're ever going to know.
Right, because Madeleine's DNA is a mix of all her family. So if Kate cuts her finger, if one of the twins falls and skins a knee, if Jerry cuts himself shaving,
Yeah.
you can see any of that can point to any of them.
Yep.
So yeah, that theory that the parents were somehow involved, I don't buy it, but
I,
it is still a theory.
I don't buy it. Again, it's like Patsy and John, I just don't think they would be out here in the public for years and years and years and years pushing the envelope if they actually did it and they were cleared
Right.
of it. So, yeah.
Right. There is the theory of a burglary gone wrong. So,
Before you start, I just want
yes.
to tell you I was listening to 48 Hours podcast on this, and I recommend that to everyone if you want to hear more about the pedophile abduction theory. They were actually saying that a behavioral analyst from I think the FBI, but also the one in Germany, this one in Germany, was saying he thought it was credible that it was a burglary by a certain person gone and then turned opportunistic abduction. And he's like, that's possible. But that's just this basic like predicting, like, yeah, it's possible, I guess, that that could happen. Is it likely? I don't know. But you'd have to have a burglar who was also a pedophile and who could switch gears really quickly, I think. But they said they said they feel like it's a credible
Sure.
theory. Yeah.
Well, no, and if the like the suspect or the profile they have in mind is somebody that has a history of both, you
Yeah.
know, burglary and assault, kidnapping, which was the case with Richard Allen Davis in Petaluma in 1993 when he straight up walked into Polly Klaas's home
Ugh.
and stole her at knife point. He was his history was of burglary
Uh,
and of assault and of kidnapping. So, you know,
oh.
he went in there and just he was able to switch gears because, you know, he was a wreck too. And I mean this is what he's because I was wondering like had he been watching Polly Klaas, had he
Mhm.
and apparently it was just completely random.
Really?
But that's what he says. Again,
Uh-huh.
how much credence do you wanna give to Richard Allen Davis? It really I mean, that's the terrifying thing is it feels random because it's fucking Petaluma.
I
You know, it's
know. I
Petaluma and
know.
Marin County. If any of, our listeners have ever been to Petaluma, it's a quiet, sleepy, very, very safe seeming well, it was in the '90s when I was there. But, it's just you think it's safe to just have your door unlocked, which again, he was able to walk right into the house. But so
Ooh, God.
all yeah, all that
Mhm,
to make the point that yes, of course,
mhm.
if this was a burglary gone wrong, perhaps it is a case that someone got lucky that the sliding glass door was unlocked, went in, saw the fact that there were children there, saw Madeleine there. The burglar also happened to be somebody who had a history of kidnapping children, molesting children, what have you, and went, "Oh, well, I'll take her." And then just, takes Madeleine and leaves.
Mm,
So, I feel like it's sort of moot. You know, like,
Yeah.
did they break in to steal Madeleine? Did they break in to steal all the kids and then switched gears? Did they break in to steal valuables, saw Madeleine, switched gears? I mean, it's they took her.
Right.
I don't know that motive is necessarily so important if they broke in because they wanted Madeleine specifically, or it became a different. The plan shifted when they saw her.
Yeah.
So burglary gone wrong is another theory, which isn't terribly crazy, right? And it keeps with the pattern at the resort of, I guess, you had said the apartment above the McCanns had been burglarized prior to them arriving at the resort, right?
Yeah, I heard it was burglarized the week before.
Okay.
And then, that is kind of on the resort. At that point, like, what do I'm sure I don't know if they inform you of these things, but they probably should have informed the guests just to watch over their valuables, including their valuable children.
Yeah. Okay, so we knew that there had, at least in Praia da Luz, which had a reputation for being safe, we find out that actually there had been problems with pedophiles within the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that there had been a string of abductions or of molestations of children. I think any resort, honestly, you're going to find thefts.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like yeah. It seems like that would be something that happens anywhere, right? A Disneyland resort, anywhere. It just seems like a great opportunity. You get busy, distracted tourists
Yeah.
with a lot of cash, to buy souvenirs and.
It was kind of a working class town, right? It was
Mhm.
the tourism was the industry. There were a lot of people who didn't have a lot of money. So yeah, crimes of opportunity, like they're wealthy people here. We can get into their hotel rooms and take things. And they, in one of the documentaries I watched, they interviewed a guy who was living in Praia de Luz, who was friends with the suspect that we'll talk about. To, but he, they were hustlers. There were people that were like hustlers. They were sort of drifters, like that made money by stealing things and selling them. So, like anywhere. And so that was happening. And it happened at the resort.
Yes. Another popular theory is that Madeline was taken by traffickers and sold. So this theory goes to the point that there historically had been a few pedophile rings that had targeted children in Praia da Luz, which is horrifying. But this theory focuses on how the McCanns were, again, I've said this over and over again. We've discussed this. They had the same pattern every single day with dropping kids off at kids club, going and doing their activities. Same thing, same habits,
Ugh.
very routine, and that traffickers were targeting resorts
Hmm.
like the Ocean Club, popular. So there's going to be lots of children, and that traffickers saw Madeline at the kids' club day after day, out and about with their family day after day, focused on her because, she was a beautiful little girl, a toddler, older toddler, 3, 4, and that someone had put in a request for her, right? So someone
From Belgium.
someone took a picture of her and put it out there, made it available that she was there, and someone in Belgium requested her was going to pay a high price for her, and that she was then taken.
Yeah, and I don't remember what intelligence that came through on. I don't know if it was Portuguese intelligence or if it was British intelligence, but that was a piece of the intelligence information that they had gleaned from the dark web, that right before she went missing, someone had placed an order for a young blonde girl. Yeah.
So yes. And that that's part of why you can't find her, is that she was taken by a very organized operation.
Yeah. So this is what got me thinking about it. I was like, "Oh, wow." Like, I mean, I know pedophiles, yeah, like, intellectually, but then I was like, "Oh, like, what are pedophile operations like?" Because some of these documentaries that we watched talked a lot about how witnesses said they saw men going door to door soliciting donations for some sort of children's home that existed. And there was none. There was none that existed in Praia da Luz, but they were fundraising for it. So that could be like a scouting operation from a pedophile ring. So I just wanted to like talk just about the couple cases that were had around the time of the case. I mean, this is not for sensationalism. This is definitely to like help people understand and look for warning signs. But basically, pedophile rings vary widely. They have like loose online groups that just share illegal material. And then they have like some that are like structured organizations that actually like actively abuse children, and sometimes for profit. And law enforcement often categorizes them into preferential rings that are driven by a fixation on children, and on situational ones where exploitation ties into other crimes like trafficking. So they use grooming. They build trust with kids through gifts, attention, shared interests. They usually this is the thing that's different about this case, is they usually target vulnerable children who are in foster care or have like broken homes or who are isolated and are online a lot, but also in like sports clubs, schools, family circles. And so once the trust is established, the control will start to kick in, and there'll be threats like blackmail, photos and videos, psychological manipulation to make the abuse feel normal. But many rings are like pipelines, right? So they recruit, they abuse, and then they discard the victims as they age. Discard meaning, I think, I don't know, boot them out onto the street or kill them. Um, so online it's exploded, right? They didn't People who were pedophiles didn't have a way to really meet in such, until they can congregate now online. So some of these webs that I'm about to discuss, you know, they always have like an entrance trust thing that they make you do to allow you to come into the group. And I'll talk about the different things that they do. So one of the operations that was around pre Madeleine McCann was an operation called Operation Cathedral, and that's the operation that intelligence had going to bust this pedophile ring. So in 1998, the Wonderland Club that had 180 members across 13 countries was busted. There were like 100 plus arrests. This particular group, in order to join it, you had to have 10,000 unique images that hadn't been seen before in order to get in. So people had to produce this stuff. They also live streamed like live abuse in this group. So really like dark, awful things. And then so none of these none of these were happening at the time. This is just to show you that what was going on around that time, and that it's a possibility that she could have been, taken by one of these groups. So Operation Delego, often mistakenly referred to as Delgado. It targeted Dreamboard, which had 600 members. So that group demanded ongoing uploads of violent content. So on kids under 12. So in order to get into this group, you had to produce your own original violent content and share it with them. So there only 72 people were charged in that one, and many got life sentences, which is great. And then there was the Casa Pia scandal, which was in Portugal. It was exposed in 2002. It involved an orphanage ring that was abusing hundreds of boys, and they were procuring the boys for elites, so wealthy people, just like you had mentioned, hostile. There were convictions of 6 people only in this ring, including TV stars and diplomats. So, so could she have been snatched for something like this? I mean, possibly.
Yeah, that's I thought about that in part because of just how she was just taken and she disappeared without a trace,
Yeah.
with no. Now, to be fair, the crime scene had been compromised very, very quickly and very badly, just with, people trying to help, tramping through the apartment, because, most people's first thought is like, shit, we got to find her. Your first thought is not usually like she was kidnapped. It's she must have wandered off. She
Yeah.
must be nearby. And so everyone is going in and out. So, it could be, of course, that just a lone creep took her, sure,
Yeah.
and got away with it because, again, it's the whole thing. They didn't secure the borders. They didn't. I mean, nothing was really done. Nothing earnestly was done for a long time. But also, somebody as part of a well organized ring, and because there was just such a high dollar amount presumably put on Madeleine,
Yeah.
someone's going to take that risk. They're going to get paid. They've been watching her for a while. They know the apartment's unlocked. They know her parents sit at the same table and that they are, up and checking on the kids every 20-30 minutes. That's a long time to be able to get in and get out with her.
Yeah.
So it's not a crazy idea, especially given the fact that these are just two rings we know about,
I know.
right? These are just two that we know about. Um, Another theory. Well, there's another theory, which is that she just wandered out of the apartment and disappeared. Well, so one theory is that she got out because she freaked out that her parents weren't around, and she left and accidentally died somehow. One, and no one found her. Two, that she got out and just the timing was perfect. She goes outside the gate, and just so happens to come face to face with a kidnapper who then takes her and disappears. So that's another theory that I absolutely do not buy. And then there's a theory that we see come up a lot when people disappear, which is when Brian Schaefer disappeared, people thought, hey, maybe he decided to just disappear himself and start a new life because he didn't want to be a doctor after all. He was tired of med school, didn't really want to follow through and propose to his girlfriend, which he'd been planning to do. He wanted to just leave the country and become someone else. Same theory people threw out there about Bryce Laspisa. He crashed his car and then decided, fuck it. I'm going
I'm
to go
out of
start
here.
over somewhere else. I'm going to change my name and just disappear into the wilderness. Same thing with Maura Murray. She's like, crashes her car. Fuck it. I don't want to be Maura Murray anymore. I'm going to go become someone else. So maybe Madeleine,
The ripe old age of 3.
she's like, enough is enough. I'm about to be 4. I don't like being the older sibling to twins that get a lot of attention. I don't like going to the kids club every day. I'm going to go start over in Spain.
With their little bindle,
Yeah.
barefoot. Bye.
But she would have taken her beloved cuddle cat with her.
Yes,
So, yeah.
she would have.
Yeah. I'm not trying to make light of it, guys. It's just that I was listening to a podcast about Chance Engelbert disappearing in Wyoming.
Mm.
And it always comes up every time somebody like disappears off the face of the earth. Some jackass decides, hey, maybe they just wanted to start over somewhere else and become someone else and abandon their life and cut off contact with everyone they've ever loved. As though that makes any fucking sense. Has that ever even happened?
I mean, probably for somebody who's like a fugitive and running from the law
Sure.
or something, but like a person with no or escaping an abusive relationship, or
Sure.
kidnapping a child that's theirs. But yeah, this is, I can't believe people would float that about Madeleine McCann, though. It's ridiculous. I
Oh,
think the
no, I made
cops
that up.
actually, no, but I think the cops actually did some version of that. They were like,
No, come
yeah, they were,
on.
really think I remember in one of these podcasts or documentaries that the cops were kind of like, well, what if she just left on her own? I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that'd be like wandering away, not like, I
Sure.
leave by blowing this pop stand. Like,
Yeah. Forget this. I didn't want to come to Portugal. I wanted to go to Disneyland.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, I always just trip out when it's, Brian Schaefer, who's like fucking finishing medical school, is in love with his girlfriend, really close to his dad. It's like, well, he always wanted to be a musician.
Like he couldn't do that and everything else.
Right. Oh, I mean, the amount of effort it would take to just stop using, like, yeah.
How do you get a new
Anyway.
identity? How does anybody know how to get a new identity? They didn't have the internet back then, right? I bet now you could probably like order things on the.
Brian Schaefer did. The internet was there
Oh,
for
okay.
Brian Schaefer. He had a cell phone and everything like that. But anyway, sorry to
Yeah.
get off. But yeah. So no, that was a little attempt at levity in this very sad case about theories that Madeleine just decided to, shrug off being Madeleine McCann and embrace a completely new identity in another country. So we've already discussed human traffickers, that as a theory. And then we get to the
Our
final theory,
buddy. Yeah.
which is that she was abducted by a lone pedophile. And so with this theory, it's pretty self-explanatory, that the family has been doing the same thing day after day, and a lone pedophile had been at the resort in the tradition of many pedophiles, would frequent places where there are families and children. So this resort, which had so many activities and kids clubs for little ones, it would be easy to spot them, interact with them, observe them. So one part of this theory is that Madeleine had been watched for a bit, that the family had been watched for a bit, and that their very obvious ritualistic kind of same thing day after day after day was became really apparent to this pedophile, who then took the opportunity to go into the apartment and take her. Another version of that is simply that the pedophile just saw her, liked her, saw an opportunity, maybe hadn't been watching her the entire time, but got a sense that's that little girl, and she lives in that ground floor apartment, and that's easy enough to get into,
Mm-hmm.
and then took off with her.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a theory that aligns really well with the suspect that was arrested for other things, Christian Bruckner, a German gentleman who, not gentleman at all, fella, who was in Praia da Luz at the same time as the McCanns. His phone was pinging off near the resort.
At that time.
Yes, at the time that they were there. He fits a profile. He was a burglar. He was a child molester and had done time before, and was arrested for other crimes when the German police were heavily, heavily looking into him as possibly the man that took Madeleine McCann back in 2007. So now we get into talking about Christian Bruckner.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yay.
And you mentioned the post offense behavior, right? Where he deregistered his car and
The day after.
Yeah.
Right? The day after Madeleine went missing, he switched his title over to someone else, sold his car, right?
Yeah, well, I think he just switched the title. We don't know if money was exchanged.
Sure.
But with a cell phone ping, is one of the pieces of the evidence that the German police have put forward. They are not putting forward everything. They're very certain that it was him. But they say that it's not time. They feel like it's not the right time to disclose what else they have. But they said it may be a witness, it may be video, it may be photographs, because they found a whole treasure trove of USB drives when they went digging around on one of his properties in Germany. They found toddler bathing suits in his possession. He had talked to a friend in a bar when the story came on about Madeleine McCann and said, they're never going to find her. The friend was so freaked out by what he said. I've heard multiple things. Like one friend said that he described what he did to her, but I don't know. I don't know what the truth is. But someone had a conversation with him when it was on television in a bar, and they were freaked out enough by what he said that they called in a tip on him. And he was living less than a mile away from the resort in a little house in Praia da Luz. And he had a little Westfalia, like a Volkswagen van that he would drive around in that was pretty distinctive. And people remember seeing him driving around and driving by. But the cell phone ping is really compelling because it's within the time period of when she was abducted. It pinged right there by the hotel, like within that hour or so. So I don't know. It's pretty compelling.
Yeah, it's compelling. It also reminds me, and it's spooky. It is absolutely spooky because it reminds me. Do you remember the theory that Jeffrey Dahmer was the one actually responsible for killing Adam Walsh?
No.
So there was a theory
Wow.
that Jeffrey Dahmer was actually the person responsible for abducting and murdering Adam Walsh rather than Otis Toole, who did it like a deathbed confession, I believe.
Hmm.
Or someone knew, Otis Toole is the person that is known as the actual murderer of Adam Walsh. But the theory is because Jeffrey Dahmer was in Hollywood, Florida around that time. And I correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, anybody who's familiar with this, because I'm just kind of like going based off of some memory, that he happened to be at that mall in Hollywood, Florida at the time that Adam Walsh was kidnapped. And
Well,
Adam doesn't quite fit the victim profile for Jeffrey Dahmer, because he was like a 7, 8 years old, or
yeah.
6. Like he was a little boy. He wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like a teenage boy. And
Mm-hmm.
usually with Dahmer, he tended to target like older teens and young men, right? But there's really nothing to really point to it at all, except the weird coincidence that he happened to be there.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are the odds that there's 2 serial killers at the same mall
Yeah.
in Hollywood, Florida, and this little boy gets taken by one of them? I mean, that's the worst possible luck you could ever have. I don't know how true that is, that he was there at the exact same time or not. I'd have to look into it. I bring it up because that would be a crazy coincidence if Christian Bruckner's cell phone pings perfectly that night and it's someone else who takes Madeleine rather than Christian Bruckner. Again, when we talk
Yeah.
about the odds of these things happening, it's like, again, the worst fucking possible luck you could have.
Christian Bruckner also raped that 72-year-old woman at the Ocean Club, which leads me to the whole thing about the difference between. This was an interesting distinction that we don't make often, but in this case, it brought to light for me at least. Like there's child molesters and pedophiles are not one and the same, right? Like
Right.
a pedophile can be a child molester, but half of child molesters are not pedophiles. So their primary attraction is not to children. The the molesters that aren't pedophiles generally are psychopaths who like to harm vulnerable people. and they seek out people who are weaker than them, like older women,
Like an elderly
younger
person, like a
kids.
child or
Yeah.
an animal.
Yeah.
When we talked about Adam Britton, the
Oh,
horrible, horrible, horrible animal rapist, torturer, killer of animals, this horrible person. We talked about it in one of our very first episodes on zoophiles and our relationship to animals in general. But Adam Britton was stealing, adopting pets and torturing and raping them and recording it and going into as it
oh,
turns out, Christian Bruckner and various other pedophiles that form these communities, he was getting ready to move on to children.
yes,
And
yes.
so that, again, is Adam Britton a pedophile, or is he an absolute monstrous psychopath who just wants to hurt
Small things.
anything and anyone that's small and vulnerable and defenseless? So it
Uh,
seems as though Christian Bruckner definitely falls into that, because there's a big difference between like a little toddler girl and an elderly woman. But the one thing they have in common is that they're vulnerable.
dude, did I want me to read his things from the Sun magazine? Did you read those?
Yes.
Okay. So
Fuck.
Christian Bruckner also had friends, and like he was a man about town. I guess he would go to parties, he would go to bars. Even some people thought he had charisma. um
He looks like, so when I described what I imagined like, or people like him, I
mhm,
mean, whether he's a pedophile in the traditional sense or not, I mean, he was abusing children,
yeah.
but he totally looks like he'd wear a members only jacket.
Totally. Yeah, wiry.
But apparently he was charismatic, and I don't think of members only jacket wearing guys with comb overs or charismatic. More awkward than anything, but
Well, one friend they interviewed was on the periphery with him, like, kind of
an
they were
acquaintance.
yeah, there were 3 of these people. The guy who they interviewed, the other one wouldn't do the interview, which made me wonder. I thought, could he have been an accomplice? So these 2 people and Christian Bruckner would go around town stealing diesel for this other guy's van because they didn't have money. And they went back to Christian's house, and the guy said he really hated Christian, but they all kind of hung out together as drifter, burglar crew. I'm sure they were doing drugs. Christian was also selling weed and doing drug trafficking, but he said he just couldn't stand him. He thought he was just like a terrible person. But they went to his house, and he said it was just everywhere there were electronics and things that had value that he had stolen that he could sell. And when he finally got busted for stealing a bunch of diesel, I guess he got busted and went to jail. These 2 guys who had been hanging out with him, they're over at their house, talking one night, and they started scheming. And they're like, "Yeah, well, he's in jail. Let's go rob him." So they go over to his house, and they noticed everything was just torn apart, like the police had been there. But they found a camera that was full of photos and videos of him abusing people, what looked like a 16-year-old girl, and then an older woman, like a 45-year-old woman. But rather than turning that over to the police, they just didn't. But they spoke out as witnesses, once they heard about the Madeleine McCann case and his connection. So he was just on the fringes, going back and forth between Germany, Portugal, and Spain. So he fled Germany initially and ended up in Playa de Luz because he had had a conviction there, and I think they were after him for another one. So he leaves there. He leaves Playa de Luz like right after Madeleine McCann goes missing.
And I'm sure because it was going to be there was going to be a big search for her, you know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of attention. It would make sense.
Hmm.
And wasn't it said that the way he would describe fantasies and things in these chats that he
Oh
was
yeah.
in,
I'll read it. Yeah.
and yeah,
All right. So this is after Madeline, and what the
right.
behavioral analysts were saying was that based on what he said, they haven't released it all because it's pretty gruesome. This is also graphic, so trigger warning. Um, he finds a fellow pedophile online, and he starts writing back and forth with this person. Their back and forth is so ridiculous. Okay. In one story that's too graphic to publish in full, Bruckner wrote, This is his fantasy. I look excitedly at the door. A very small girl enters the room. She's definitely not older than 5. Blonde, long hair tied in pigtails bounces cheekily back and forth as she comes toward me. This is maid Anna Lee. She is 4 years old. I feel like I'm in paradise right now. Then he had another fantasy about waiting outside of a daycare center to kidnap a mother and child. He wrote, when she came to the car with her little daughter in her hand and opened the back door, I was already standing behind the two of them, holding a rag soaked in ether. I forcefully pushed it into the woman's face. At first, she fought hard, but I held her tight. The girl sat in the car and watched me with wide, horrified eyes. When everything was done and the two bodies were hidden in the darkness, I got my van, loaded up my prey, and drove away. It goes on.
Yeah. I noticed in one of the things that he talked about when he said that he wanted to find something small and
Yes.
use it 4 days.
Yes. That was
And
one of
it
them.
was the it,
Yep.
referring to her as it. Not necessarily Madeline, although again, when he's talking about this was prior,
This is after.
after, yeah. So should we speak about the certainty with which the German police.
First of all, when it's interesting, I went back and listened to the Crime Junkie episode on this, and they actually just flat out said murdered. She's dead. He killed her. Like they fully believe it. So I thought that was bold, and I was like, yeah. And so when I was watching that documentary, I was really you can I think you can hear some of the guy. It's so funny. It's so German. The main investigator in the case of Christian Buckner is named like Hans Christian something, and
Right.
he speaks with great certainty. He also speaks in ways where I feel like he's given us the message, like, we got it, guys. Like, we know, we just can't tell you.
Well, that's when I heard, I think it's the same guy, yeah. And he said that he knows with absolute certainty, and that he wanted her parents to know with
Yeah.
absolute certainty that she was dead, but that he couldn't give any more information. But it feels to me as though it's a merciful reveal for her family, like that he can tell them that much. Anything more is going to compromise the case they're trying to build against Christian Bruckner. They couldn't hold him in prison until they have something that is just absolutely irrefutably links him to her. And so
Yeah.
my thought was they maybe found footage of her on a drive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's Christian that committed the act, but
Right.
that maybe it's someone else that committed the act. Like they know that Madeline is dead, that they know that they believe that somehow Christian Bruckner is responsible, but they don't have anything that can pin it 100% on him. And to avoid any kind of like maybe double jeopardy thing, they couldn't, they let him go. I think he has like an ankle monitor, like they're monitoring him closely, but they're actively trying to really build something. But that the one thing they wanted to get out was that they know that Madeline is no longer alive.
Yes. And they also want to tie him to a bunch of other crimes. Let me just tell you about this really horrible one
Oh
because,
shit.
well,
Okay.
so a couple things just came to mind. Well, I'll go this way. So they have a bunch of other crimes that were committed that they think he's probably involved in. One of them, you had been talking to me last night. You left me a message talking about how you were reflecting on just how easy it is for things like this to happen. You know, you turn away for a second and boom, something
Yeah.
happens. And this case just chilled me to the bone. So it's another case with a kid and a family on vacation. I want to say I don't think it was Praia da Luz, but the kid was running up ahead from their parents. The parents were right behind the kid, right? So the kid gets ahead of them, just running along. They get up there and they turn a corner and they see nothing but a pile of his clothes and he's gone. I know. So that's another one they're trying to link to him. And then another one of this girl, I think her name was Inga. She had been at a barbecue with her family and she went to get some wood for the barbecue and just boom, gone.
Look at Jacob Wetterling. The Jacob Wetterling case it haunts me because he was out doing something that I used to do 100 fucking times with my friends
Yeah.
on the way to the video store just to get a movie to watch, and then
Oh.
he's abducted. And he was missing forever, and then they it was a very recently, within the last 6 years or
Mhm.
something, where they found him because somebody that had been sexually molested by the same man that kidnapped Jacob, I guess it took a lot, but the guy revealed what had happened to him.
Oh god.
But again, it's something you do a fucking 100 times as a kid or as a parent, you know.
Yeah.
I always go back to I always go back to poor Reve Walsh in The Sears with Adam, and just
Oh.
going down to grab a lamp from one aisle, coming back, and he's gone, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway, to your point, like that with Christian Bruckner, these crimes that again are situations where parents are just doing their thing, like they've done 100 fucking times. And again, I'm not saying
Mhm.
anybody who's still like really hung up on the fact that the McCanns left their children alone in the apartment. I know that's
Risky.
it is very risky, but uh,
Doesn't have to be risky for something to happen.
yeah, no, that's very evidently the case. You
Yeah.
know, you look at Adam Walsh, you look at the Jacob Wetterling, you look at this case of the little kid that ran ahead and just within seconds was taken.
With a
You know,
pile of clothes left behind.
like
Like,
what the
wow.
like how does that? I mean, it takes time to undress
I know.
someone, especially a struggling child,
You
unless
gotta
unless it was like a I don't know, like a shorts or so, I don't know. Maybe.
right. Or did they stun gun him? I don't know, but yeah. Or I mean, he must have been quite far ahead. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Oh god.
But this list, so this is these were the main theories. Shannon, what do you think happened?
I think she was definitely abducted and probably killed shortly thereafter. I thought it was too I'm like, it's too specific. Why Christian Bruckner? But after all the stuff I've seen and heard, I think and I look in the face of that detective who's running the case in Germany and all the things he's saying, I think they know for sure that he did it, and they just gotta put together a good case. And it's awful. I can't even imagine having to think about what she went through, like, as a parent, like, it's hard for me to think about what she went through and really put myself in a position of a 3-year-old, just terrified. One thing, I don't want to drag this out too long, but I was listening to Real Crime Profile, and one thing that Kathy, I forget her last name, she was one of the people who investigated this case and advised the Portuguese police force when they were. She said, Todd. Oh, sorry, no. This isn't her that said this. This is Pat Brown. So she was saying, she's a behavioral profiler. She was saying, toddlers are hard. Toddlers are wild. And you take a toddler who's been taken away from their mother, and she's going to be scared and crying and inconsolable. And that likely they don't like that. Pedophiles don't want that, and he probably didn't keep her around for very long. Also because of the notoriety. That gives me a little bit of peace that it was over potentially quickly and it wasn't lasting days. But it's just a horrific thought. But how about you?
Uh, I'm right there with you. Definitely believe she was abducted. Uh, have always believed that she was abducted.
Mhm.
I toyed around with the thought of there being a pedophile ring, or that she was trafficked very specifically to a very specific person. But I'm landing on Christian Bruckner,
Mhm.
in large part. Same with for a investigator, a detective, to really want to make the point for the parents to know that their daughter is dead. you don't say that unless you are absolutely certain.
Yeah.
And the fact that they said she is dead, not we believe that she is no, there's a very good chance she is no
Mhm.
longer. They don't play around with that. It's they wanted it to be known for the parents that she had passed so that they could move on
Yeah.
and grieve her.
Yeah.
That and then all of the, I guess, circumstantial stuff around him being there, that she fits a victim profile that,
Mhm.
that had the police kind of not been so obsessed with the parents that they could have done things like looked at receipts from the tapas bar and really been able to place Christian like at the actual resort itself around the same time. I mean, the cell phone ping is enough,
Yep.
I suppose. I had thought because of his fantasy describing using ether, I wondered if he had ether
Yep.
and that he used it on Madeleine to, like, if she was asleep, that he would ether her and then pick her up. And then I know that there was a man that carrying a little girl wearing the same pajamas as her that was seen walking away. It's probably him, and maybe she had been um, drugged.
Maybe. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but the fact that also he turned around and left Praia da Luz the next day tells me that he didn't keep her alive for very long.
Yeah.
So there is, like you, I take some, like a modicum of comfort in that.
Let me destroy your comfort for a moment.
Okay.
So apparently he had this RV that he wanted to smuggle drugs in, and he was telling this to someone, his friend's father, which is odd. And
Yeah.
so, hey, I want to really just, but anyway, yeah. So I guess, but the dad seemed a little edgy when they were interviewing the dad. They blurred out his face, but they showed he had these rings on, and his rings were like skull rings. And I was all, oh, okay. So maybe this is kind of a like gothy family that's living on the.
Right.
So, but he was bragging. He had the huge RV, and so inside the RV, the guy said he went in and he looked, and there was this door at the very back, and he had told him that he had a girl in there. But I don't know what that really meant. But I just and this is before the abduction. So I don't. I think it just meant that it was a large room in there, and you could put a person in there. And so it's possible he put her in there and smuggled her out of there and went to Spain or back to Germany. He had this weird, gross property that they where they found everything. There were all these dilapidated buildings on the property. He could have easily. I think they've checked there. They found his dog's bones and all those little thumb drives there. But she could be anywhere. There's all these abandoned wells in around Praia da Luz, and so I hope he didn't keep her in that RV. um, yeah, and I hope it was over quickly for her.
If we could take any fucking comfort from statistics around these types of crimes, they're usually dead within the hour or two. Adam Walsh was dead within an hour. Polly Kloss was dead within an hour. Jacob Wetterling was dead within an hour. Why do I know all of this? It's disturbing. But
You're like a walking encyclopedia of true crime. I love it.
but if I would think that the minute it was hitting the news, and
Yeah.
again, this was '07, so we all had constant information hitting us all the time. I
Mhm.
don't know that he would want to keep her around,
Mm-mm.
knowing that, presumably there was at that by the by morning, like a APB or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I just I kept thinking about that. I'm like, what's less horrible, a pedophile ring with her, being taken by someone from that, being taken by a lone creep like Christian Bruckner. I mean, there's no, yeah, I don't know. She's just a little kid. It's just awful. But yeah, so those are the theories, and it looks like you and I have landed on the same theory. The most likely lone pedophile, very very likely Christian Bruckner, and that Madeleine is dead and has been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
which I'm curious if Jerry and Kate have. I would assume that they've been that the German authorities have been in contact with them.
I'm guessing, yeah. I don't know what they believe right now.
I know that they, for a long time, wanted desperately to believe that she was taken by a family that just wanted a little girl and that they raised her and loved her,
Mhm.
which again is just so heartbreaking when you think about them. Of course they want that to be the case, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And further evidence, I think, that they are completely innocent in this is the fact that they have tried for years and years and years to keep this alive. If they were responsible, they would just want it all to go away.
Yes, I think
So
so.
yeah. Well, next week we're going to talk about the media, and that'll have us talking quite a bit about Jerry and Kate and how the media treated this case. We can also probably do some comparisons and contrasts with other missing children. Like we'll go back and discuss Jean Bonnet and the police,
Mhm.
and what felt like a gross miscarriage of justice with both these families.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, shall we?
Yay!
Yay! One more week.
Yay!
Let's try to do something lighter after this. Uh,
Yeah, are there any lighter murders that we can cover? No, there's
Maybe
been
like a
some.
bank robbery or something, a heist.
Yes.
So please, everyone, if you like our podcast, please give us 5 stars on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We would really appreciate it.
Yes, and then please let us know. What do you have theories? We've been interested reading some of your theories about Jean Bonnet. Follow us on Instagram at Secret Passage Podcast, X at Secret Pass Pod, and we will see you next week.
See you later, alligator.
Bye.